Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Bakes by Vasco. I'm Michelle with 1L, and I'm glad you're here. So the Irish soda bread went over so well in my family. We've had it twice now, but I still had buttermilk left over and I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought to myself, maybe it's time I make something that I like. Not that I don't like everything, but you know, the baker never bakes for themselves. Anyway, red velvet has buttermilk in it. And red velvet just happens to be my favorite, so guess what we're baking today? Red velvet cupcakes. So there is a common misconception that red velvet is just chocolate cake with red dye. Now, while there is cocoa powder in it, it is the buttermilk and vinegar and baking soda that originally gave it the hue of like a clay brown and the velvet texture. So now, as time has gone on, they've added red dye to make it more appealing and look really, fancy dancy. And so that's what we're going to do today. What we're going to need is, let's see, I already got everything out and ready to go because you don't really want to watch me, do all that. So I have 1.5 cups of sugar, regular white granulated sugar in there. And I get to use an entire stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup. And as you can see, mine is salted. So I will not be adding any additional salt, maybe a pinch, but the recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt if you use unsalted butter. So, but let's not get confused. We're going to start out with 1.5 cups sugar and our 1/2 cup of room temperature butter. Cut it up, toss it in there. I'm going to use my stand mixer Betty and paddle attachment. Lock it into place. Now you want to cream this together. What creaming is just mixing it together until it's really light and fluffy. I know this is so exciting to sit and watch this cream together, but okay. Now that you got that all whipped into submission, scrape down the sides of your bowl, and then you'll add 2 eggs, large eggs, room temperature, 1 at a time. I saw a TV show once where a baker was afraid to touch eggs, and that just boggles my mind. So, and you just want to mix until the yellow is broken a little bit incorporated. And then we'll add our second one. Then you'll let those combine well. Next, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. Now I'm going to scrape down my spatula there. Get all the stuff that's not mixed in yet. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. Make sure my bowl's attached so it doesn't go flying across the room. Mix that one more time real quick. Then it's time for 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. And mix that well. And as always, you need to make sure you scrape down the sides of the bowl to get everything incorporated. I use good old Hershey's cocoa powder. All right, now that that's all nice and combined, you need to mix. I already measured it out. my flour and my baking soda. There's 2 1/4 cups flour and a teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm just going to whisk that together. Make sure it's incorporated and I don't have any lumps or anything like that. And then you add a teaspoon of vinegar to a cup of buttermilk. And now you want to alternate adding the flour mixture letting that mix. Don't normally turn it on that high because that could be a recipe for disaster. And then you want to add in a little bit of your buttermilk. And then more of your flour. More buttermilk. More flour. The last of the buttermilk, and then you'll want to add the last of the flour, being the last of your steps. Let that mix until it's combined. Take a minute, scrape down your bowl. Get all the flour pockets scooped in there. And now is when you want to add your food coloring. This is everybody's personal preference. I just added a couple drops of red gel just to give it a light red tinge so it looks less like chocolate cake. Now that is all set. Oh, maybe. Food coloring is hard to work with. Let me get this out of the way. You don't want to over mix the batter, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in the sink. Scrape all that down by hand. And now it looks like it's ready for cupcake liners. Let's move over here. Not a very far walk when you live in a small apartment. I got this everywhere. That's why I have a towel. I have my cupcake pan here. It's a nice, obviously well-used Tefal from a few years ago. I have my oven set to 325 degrees, and I have my cupcake liners out. Always important, because just like parchment paper, you don't want things to stick. I'm going to use an ice cream scoop, because this is never an easy transfer. Dip up some batter. And it's kind of thick. Slop it down in there. You want them about 2/3 of the way full so they're not too muffiny on top to leave room for frosting. The traditional old-fashioned frosting that came with these is called ermine frosting, but the more popular recipe for frosting these days is cream cheese, which we will be making for these lovely cupcakes is cream cheese frosting. It's supposed to make a dozen cupcakes, but this batter looks like there's a whole lot more in there than a dozen to me. I wasn't allowed to have chocolate as a kid growing up, not as punishment. I had a heart condition and I wasn't supposed to have caffeine. But red velvet was one of those rare treats that I could have because it wasn't so much chocolate as it was everything else. A tablespoon of cocoa powder is not really going to be as much as eating a whole chocolate bar or something would be. So I grew to love it. My fingers are clean. I'm a stickler for that. Always have clean fingers when you start anything. Clean fingers, clean hands, clean clothes, clean body. If your mind's a little dirty, well, then that's okay. If you were here, I'd share them with you. But since you're not, would you hit like and subscribe and continue to follow me? I'd really appreciate that. These are now ready for the oven. So let's go ahead and stick them in. Center rack. And let them go. We need 20 to 25 minutes. So that to me is 22. So we'll set the little ticky timer right there between them. And I'll see you in a bit. Well, it's still ticking, but the timer did go off. So let's go ahead and pull these out and see if they're ready. You want them to spring back when you touch them, and you want the center to test clean with the toothpick. So I have to show off my little toothpick gadget here. I don't know where I got it, but could anything be cuter to hold toothpicks and a little cactus? Go for our center one. Nothing on it. They are done. Let's whip them out. Put them over here on the cooling rack. Let them cool in the pan for a few minutes. I ended up getting 6 more out of that batch, so that dozen made 18. I'll put those in and do the same thing. "22 minutes. Gosh, those smell good. Okay, while I let those cool a minute, I'm going to tell you again everything I used. 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 2 large eggs at room temperature, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, 2¼ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of buttermilk at room temperature, and 1 teaspoon of white vinegar, and finally, a couple drops of red food coloring. And that's the ingredients for red velvet cupcakes. Now, I'm going to dump these out and then quickly turn them over so that they can cool on the rack. And then while they're cooling, we're going to make some frosting. And we'll ice them when they're ready. So, come back with me in a few minutes. All right, now I'm going to show you how to make cream cheese frosting. I have one 8-ounce brick of cream cheese. It's room temperature. I'm just going to slice it up there a little bit in the bowl. Give it a little bit of a chance of being broke up. Scrape all of it because I like a lot of frosting. There. And then another stick of butter, 1/2 cup. Calls for a pinch of salt, so using salted butter is perfect because that gives you just about the right amount. Slice this up a little bit. And dump it in. Now instead of my stand mixer, I'm going to use my hand mixer because I have more control over getting this mixed. And then you just want to mix this until it's smooth and creamy. Alright. Then you get a nice light whipped butter and cream cheese mixture. You're going to add 4 cups of powdered sugar, but you're going to do it gradually. So we'll start with our first one. And then we'll add our second one. And I think I'm on what, 3? Yeah. Once again, my husband Eric behind the counter.
On
Camera. And finally, cup number 4. grab a rubber spatula so I can scrape down the sides of the bowl. This is really thick. And then you just mix this until it's as smooth as you can possibly get it. All right, now you've got a nice creamy consistency and all your powdered sugar is as mixed in as you can get it. You're gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And there you go. Just right. Now we're ready to get my icing caulk gun out, and I'll show you how to decorate them. Frosting's ready. Now, yes, this is a tackle box. No, there's not fishing lures in here. A few years ago, my husband bought this for me on Amazon. It's a Wilton cake decorator, and it's basically does the same thing a caulk gun does. You unscrew the tube here. It's got a plunger. You just take your frosting. Full. Then you just screw the lid back on and choose a cool looking. I have all kinds of little ones to choose from. But today, let's just go with a very basic tip. Here's your adapter. Put that there. Add your adapter ring. Maybe if my arthritis will cooperate. And there you go.
Cool.
Modern day pastry bag. Now let's come over here to my 1 dozen cool, beautiful red velvet. They do not look red in any way, shape, or form to you because I didn't use as much red dye. That just goes to show you that commercial cakes today obviously use a lot. And I'm going to say that's going to affect the way they taste. These are going to taste very traditional, as is with the frosting. So let's get to frosting. I'm a lefty, so things are a little backwards for me. There we go. You just squeeze the trigger. And there you have it. And then you just repeat that. On all of your cupcakes. See how simple that is and how pretty that looks? To me, red velvet is something that's so simple but can make you so fancy. All right, there we go. Now, as always, the best part of baking is the eating. And these are my favorites, so the paper. Cheers.